Man, if I had a nickel for every time that there was a fantasy anime who spent its second season in college, Magic College at that, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot. It's pretty weird it happened twice, right? Jokes aside, Ancient Magus Bride and Mushoku Tensei doing a similar trajectory of their second seasons is convenient or coincidental, to say the least, but doesn't mean that I did not enjoy both shows' second seasons. They're different in how they kind of approach the subject matter and how each show's kind of foundational basis is different. Kind of left me with different impressions of both shows. Like if you look at my Kitsu rating, they both got an 8, which is a good rating in my opinion. Eight's a very good rating. They're very solid shows, very good. I enjoyed both of them, but I enjoyed season one of Ancient Magus a lot more than I enjoyed season two, even though it's a half point difference. And I enjoyed season two of Mushoku Tensei roughly the same as I enjoyed the first season. However, it's different in kind of scaling and action packedness. But there's a reason for all this. And to really get into that, I think it kind of comes down to the core of the two shows. Mushoku Tensei is uh, a fantasy comedy where Rudy is kind of a pervert and just kind of does perverted things. And just kind of just lives his best life being reincarnated as a child. And he kind of learns magic. Is a pervert. Learns magic. Is a pervert. Has to deal with family drama, learning skills from various masters, and eventually teaching his older cousin how to do magic and math and other various life skills. But as the season caught on with the teleportation issue and them being teleported to the different continent in a much more harsh environment without anybody they knew, the situation changed and their perspective changed, and I felt like it was a very good change from the first season to the second season. It made it interesting, kind of gave you a new light to look at rather than having Rudy grow up in this kind of safe environment he was in. It really threw him a different situation. And then the second season comes out, and it's completely different because it starts off with Rudy kind of just being way too strong, like much more strong than anything he's dealing with. There's no real danger to him as a person, but the kind of the turmoil endangering Rudy is not internal, or is not external, I should say. It's not monsters trying to kill him like dragons or any monster or beast trying to harm him. It's internal. His heart is broken after what Eris did to him, and he has to deal with that. And he kind of just wastes away, just being a wandering corpse, so to speak, just kind of going around, not really understanding or valuing his own life, and rather kind of putting himself in situations where his death would not really hurt anyone but I guess him at the end of the day. He's still looking for his mother, but like it's his impotence is kind of derail his entire character arc and makes him feel much worse and like there's no hope. And the college arc is a very good way to kind of remedy that. It gives him a situation where he can learn more. It's in a completely different environment rather than being spotted by random teachers in isolated places. He's at a place dedicated to his learning, and he can refine his craft and grow as a mage and I hope as a person. And the season kind of goes along as he grows. He makes more friends, more allies, learns more skills, and reconnects with his past, and that's good for him. That puts him in a great situation going forward. And I feel like the differences between the three different parts of Mushoku Tensei, if you want to break it up into that, or the second half of the first season, and the second season, they're all different in their own special way, and they bring their each little piece of nugget of interest to the table and kind of put Rudy in various situations that he's got to grow and show who he is as a character, and I really enjoy it. I think what makes Mushoku Tensei great is his variability. When Rudy deals with, he's always the same guy deep down, even if he is impotent. He still has the urges and desires. He just can't act upon them because his body physically will not do it because of his mental blockage. But he's still the same guy. It's just how he changes and grows and develops and becomes this more rounded person that hopefully is a better person than he was in his previous life. I think that variance in experience is what makes Mushoku Tensei great as of right now. We'll have to see how the series continues in its animated form. Bringing that back to Ancient Magus Bride, however, is different. What made me like Ancient Magus Bride in the first season was kind of the exploration and the freedom it felt that Chisei kind of had in the world, even though she's kind of the wife to a deer-headed magic man. But that's what I really liked about it. Like it was free. Like Chisei just learned and had these experiences and kind of dealt with things in this very expansive, it felt like, fantasy world that was just beneath our own surface. Sort of like a Harry Potter situation, as cringe as I am to say that. But I enjoyed that. I felt like it brought a lot and made this experience very different and varied and enjoyable. What kind of transpired in the second season that I did not particularly like in this first half is I felt like the school well, it was a similar kind of situation to Rudy, as it's like a magical school that they go to develop their abilities, although for different reasons. The college itself, or the school itself, kind of felt restrictive in Chisei's situation. Like, I feel like the restrictions of the school made me not as interested in the story, because what part of the interest in the story was the setting, was the world, was getting to explore and see it. And I think that's what separates it from Mushoku Tensei. Mushoku Tensei, I'm interested in Rudy and what he's going to do, and what situations he gets himself in, and how he's going to resolve it, and what friends and allies he makes along the way to get through those things. Meanwhile, with Chisei's situation, I'm interested in see how the world, how Chisei kind of fits into this expansive world and how different everything is. While in one show I want to see Rudy grow and develop and become a better character and see how these interactions affect him, I kind of want to see Chisei as a sort of slate to view the expansive and magical world that is Ancient Magus Bride. And that's just different. I think Rudy's personality leads me to want to see him do things more, vary things more. Meanwhile, I want to see Chisei, kind of explore the world rather than be kind of locked into this one place, this one situation where she's kind of just at school. And I feel like that took away some of the magic and power in Ancient Magus Bride. And this is all to say, I really like Mushoku Tensei. That's kind of what this whole preamble was to do, is kind of contrast the two shows. But this is mostly my ideas about the second season of Mushoku Tensei and the show overall. Mushoku Tensei is fantastic. Very good show. Very good show. I think it's very, for an isekai, which is a genre that I have not been a fan of for the past forever. It doesn't have a lot of ideas that I find interesting anymore, or characters, or ways to do things. Mushoku Tensei, I think, with the combination of the quality of the animation and its presentation, as well as the main character, the world itself, and how it's kind of gone away from the video gamey side of isekai and more into like it's a real fantasy setting. We are in a fantasy. It's just straight up a fantasy with its own gods and mythos and regions and all that. I really like that. The video game stuff is fine, and I enjoy it at certain times. Like there's still like I love the first season of Log Horizon. Like there are certain types of these shows where I really enjoy the isekai fantasy setting. I like Overlord, but there's something about like the groundedness, and like this is actually a fantasy world with no video game systems in place. You are simply dealing with the fantasy setting and what the things come with, and you have to kind of sink or swim and adapt to the things as it comes at you. Which I think Rudy did a fantastic job with as a infant and a child and a toddler, and developing into the adolescent young man he is today, or I guess the adolescent 50-something-year-old at this point, man. That aside, um, I really like Mushoku Tensei. I think it does a lot of things well and kind of separates itself from the rest of Isekai. Isekai kind of focuses on and the ecchi as like a perk. Mushoku Tensei has it as sort of like a butt of the joke. It's Rudy holding over his kind of demented nature from when he was a human in Japan to this fantasy setting. I feel like it's more like how Rudy connects to the real world in a certain way, rather than kind of just the way that the world works. Like there certainly are ecchi characters. The demon girl in the second half of season one, obviously, like the incest. There's certain aspects of the show, Ghislaine's design. Like there's certain things that are certainly more traditionally Isekai in execution, but I feel like Mushoku Tensei presents it in such a way where I'm not like, oh, this is just to make me like Big Booba. This is like, it has a purpose. It's to highlight Rudy and his reactions and interactions with this world. And I think that's what Mushoku Tensei really is, and I think that's what his strength is. It is Rudy's coming into this world and interacting and developing with the world, changing to the new information, the new characters, the new situation he puts himself in or gets put into. That's what I like about Mushoku Tensei. It's not really, in a lot of isekai, it's about the main character kind of coming in and disrupting the world and changing it, making things fit around him. No, this show is more about Rudy getting changed by the world. And a lot of isekai, like they're not necessarily static characters. They're not Goku or Superman who just kind of don't change, but they also change the world. They're typically at least somewhat dynamic characters who do change in some capacity, but the world is also being form-fit around them, and their actions, because typically they're overpowered or have a lot of influence, change the world. Meanwhile, Mushoku Tensei, at least at this point, it may change in the future. Rudy's kind of like thrown into this, and he's an advanced student. He's certainly strong. But as we saw with him in the Dragon God, he is nowhere near strong enough to deal with anything that's on the higher end of this world. He's not even close. He might be stronger than the average Joe, Might be stronger than most people, but he's nowhere near the level of like an isekai protagonist who in 12 episodes becomes the strongest being in existence. Like Rudy's far off from that position at this moment. Now he may get there in the next season. We'll have to see. I am not entirely sure. Haven't read the light novels. I'm not someone who wants to do that. I kind of want to watch it and let it just develop rather than kind of reading ahead. There's sometimes like they do that. Chainsaw Man is an example. I will always read Chainsaw Man because it's one of my favorites. But like there's some shows like Mushoku Tensei where like I guess I don't want to wait. I kind of want to see how it develops. Same thing with JJK. I want to see how it develops, how things come about. My Hero Academia, other shows like of that nature. I didn't do that for Summertime Rendering. I definitely read it and kind of spoiled myself on the ending rather than just seeing it happen. But I love Summertime Rendering. It's fantastic. That all aside, back to Mushoku Tensei. I feel like Mushoku Tensei has a lot of a lot going for it. Its setting is interesting. Like it's not the most like in-depth fantasy world. It doesn't really separate itself. But what it kind of does do to do that is its mythology, having the different gods: the man god, the beast god, the dragon god, all these certain deities or elevated mortals or whatever they are supposed to be, kind of reigning above everything else and being so much more powerful than than regular people that it's just crazy. But they still exist, and in theory they could be killed or at least taken care of in some capacity. I find that interesting because most of these settings have one being or one good and one evil being. Mushoku Tensei is like not polytheism, fam, or at least some stratified mortal attainment of divine power, which very good, very much like that. Um, the characters are interesting. I like everybody for the most part. Paul, even though he's a pervert and a cheater, like him, like his mom, like the maid, like his little sisters, like Sylphie, before and after. Eris was great. Ghislaine is fun. You know, all the characters, Rugier, all the people he met over in the Demon Continent, or whatever the name was. It escapes me right now. Really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed all the interactions Rudy has because these characters develop him as a person and make him more well-rounded and more likable. Like the first half of the season was spent on him like in a blizzard, just freezing his nuts off, trying to just have this connection with this girl we'll probably never see again. Who knows? We might. But as far as I understand, probably has no reason to ever see Rudy again. And like he just can't get it up, and it embarrasses her and embarrasses him, and it kind of ruins his relationships with the people he was hanging out with. Like that is interesting. That is fun. Seeing Rudy in this situation he hasn't been in, where he has no ability to do what he wants most, which is to have sex with pretty women. That's all he wanted from the start. That's why he wanted to hang out with Sylphie and Eris and Ghislaine and all these people. Is that he wanted to copulate, to cross the barrow, cross the doorway, so to speak. And he wasn't able to, and that kind of put Rudy in a situation where like, what's Rudy gonna do now? What does he have? And as we saw, nothing. Rudy has nothing going for him, at least in his like social and personal life. He feels like the ability not to get it up is a death sentence, and kind of puts him in a situation where he's like, I don't know what to do. I just want to die. Which I understand. Not having any libido or an ability to act out on your urges would be incredibly depressing for anyone. So for him not to be able to do the thing he wants to do most and feel this sort of ridicule and humility from it, and it's basically because it's an emotional block from the girl he loved, that's just tough, man. That's tough. But yeah, I think it's good. I think Mushoku Tensei is great. I think it will be on my radar going forward. I will certainly watch it as often as I can, as much as I can, and enjoy it as much as I will. It has certainly not done anything to make me not want to watch it anymore. There are some shows that have done that where like I'm just good, fam. Like I don't need any more of this. Like there may be more coming out, but I just kind of don't care. Devil's a Part-Timer did that to me recently. But yeah, I think Mushoku Tensei is a very solid show. Deserves your watch. I think the college arc is interesting and puts Rudy in situations that make me appreciate him more as a character and what he's going through. And I can't wait to see what they bring out next season, because I'm sure, as the light novel probably goes into, wacky hijinks are going to ensue with him and his elf wife.